first evidence of intelligent life off the Earth was discovered. It was buried 40 feet below the lunar surface, near the crater Tycho. The 4-million-year-old black monolith has remained completely inert. Its origin and purpose still a total mystery.
As we grapple with the complexities of existence, we're confronted with an unsettling possibility. All meaning, all purposes, all patterns, we made them all up. What if the whole thing was just an illusion? This abrupt realization, postulated by the likes of Nietzsche and Emile Cioran, has echoed through the corridors of cinema, where filmmakers like Kubrick, Antonioni, Bela, Tarr and Lars von Trier capture that very essence of emptiness and alienation on screen. In its true essence, nihilistic art doesn't reject beauty and order, but reinterprets it, as rather than the default manner of looking at things, it manufactures a lens of despair, one where the accepted view is challenged and proposes a view where suffering is the standard. It confronts us to find significance in the insignificant and to embrace the absurdity of existence, defiantly. The artists understand that no matter how harsh the question of meaning is, it will always be there. We may not enjoy discussing these aspects of our being, but we need to. According to Emile Cioran, life's ultimate truths are veiled in futility. 2001: A Space Odyssey dialogues with this very concept. Stanley Kubrick presents a vision of humanity that's both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The film's exploration of artificial intelligence, human evolution, and the unknown forces that shape our destiny reflects a perspective on the insignificance of human life in the vastness of the cosmos. As the filmic language of 2001 gradually morphs over time, it challenges the viewer to confront the possibility that life's meaning is beyond human comprehension, that perhaps we're not remotely evolved enough to understand a fragment of our position in the universe, a universe where our evolution is not its central story. The cold, detached portrayal of space, with its infinite black void, and the mechanical, impersonal space stations reinforces the notion of a universe that's both magnificent and indifferent to human concerns and aspirations. And yet within this insignificance, there's a whisper of hope. Kubrick displays a schism within filmic language, beautiful colours that are so intense they become frightening, composing movement to classical ballet on the backdrop of the empty infinite. The language displays truths that are not mutually exclusive, and that boundary where the two intersect is often the intangible playground of the human experience. In The Tree of Life, Terrence Malick undergoes those same explorations, a story that temporarily discards its intimate family drama to gaze in awe at the splendour of the universe. Why wouldn't the two stories be part of the same narrative? Any story can be strengthened or diminished in the face of the bigger questions of the world. Look at Hideaki Anno's The End of Evangelion. Here we delve into the psyche of Shinji, a boy grappling with feelings of worthlessness and despair. And yet in this instance, it's his own apocalyptic imagery that reflects a nihilistic vision of the world, where human connections are fraught with pain and misunderstanding. It leaves the audience to confront the void of being, and to contemplate the chaotic forces of our own subconscious. That sometimes, even when surrounded in the ultimate cataclysm, our insular gaze would still lead us to ask, but what about me? Where do I fit into all this? But sometimes we're not asking for meaning on those cosmic levels. Oftentimes we can accept that some mysteries will remain just that. Sometimes the question for meaning is intimate, quiet, uncertain. In Polar X, we trace our main character's descent into madness as he abandons his life of privilege for a forbidden relationship with a mysterious woman who claims to be his sister. This is a journey into the darkest recesses of the human psyche, where the search for truth leads to a complete unravelling of identity and purpose. How does one exist beyond the boundaries of societal norms, when the truth that one feels is alien to the human condition? Polar X uses disjointed storytelling techniques, confronting the viewer with a chaos mimicking the character's inability to ever feel that cathartic sense of belonging. The film, feeling discordant, relays the character's internal reality. Much like in Mike Leigh's Naked, the urban landscape is a space devoid of warmth, a stage where connections are fleeting and ultimately meaningless.
Does anybody mind if I scream here? Is that okay with you? Because I'd feel better, but it won't take long. Ah! Ah!
Spaces are empty, people are complex, and the intelligence and wit of the main character only serves to amplify his sense of dislocation. Both films utilize their structure to create a space that utterly destroys the world they once knew, and both speak to mankind in ways that communicate the depth of the human mind when it's drawn towards the darkness.
You ever seen a dead body?
Only me own.
We can justify anything. Films like Wojciech, directed by Lech Majewski, portray the loose biography of the eponymous Polish poet, whose life was marked by existential despair. Black and white cinematography mirrors his bleak worldview, where life is seen as a relentless march toward death. Nihilism here is not just a philosophical stance, but a lived reality. We are drawn to explorations of alienation in all forms. The Man Who Sleeps follows a young man who withdraws from society, choosing to live in complete isolation. As he drifts through the streets of Paris, his internal monologue reveals a deep sense of disillusionment and detachment from the society around him.
Tu ne bouges absolument pas. Tu restes dans ton lit. Tu refermes les yeux. Ce n'est pas un geste prémédité. Ce n'est pas un geste d'ailleurs, mais une absence de geste.
The film's meditative pace and stark visuals reflect the protagonist's descent into a nihilistic state of mind, where life is reduced to a series of empty gestures and routines. That same discontent is also found in Robert Bresson's Le Diable Probablement. The film seems to affirm that traditional values have collapsed and nothing but suffering has replaced them. It makes visible a feeling of dehumanization.
Je déteste la vie, mais je déteste aussi la mort. Je la trouve affreuse.
The same one also found in Red Desert, where Antonioni meditates on the effects of industrialization as we see Juliana wander through a bleak, polluted landscape, struggling with that same sense of disconnection. His use of colour and composition emphasises that contrast between the natural and the industrial environment, highlighting the emptiness that pervades modern life. Red Desert is a meditation on the loss of meaning in a time dominated by machines and technology, where human emotions and relationships are increasingly eroded. And yet, this is not a radical perspective. From where within all of us did this dissatisfaction emerge? Why is it that upon reflection of our own lives, we so often reach such conclusions of estrangement? The muted colour palettes, the silence, the slow meandering of cinema is often utilised so that the viewer may reflect. These are techniques that instigate some degree of introspection, as though we are at one with the film, sharing some moment of absolute clarity where nothing can obfuscate the truth. Yet when we share this space with a filmmaker like Tarkovsky, we're at one with nature. We're among the grand creation of all that speaks to us on a spiritual level. Yet when these same techniques are placed among the chaos of the modern way of life that shift away from our histories, we find ourselves lost and wandering. Tarkovsky's vision walks in opposition to Michael Haneke's. The Seventh Continent is a film not interested in pondering or meditating, but in showing modernity in its true colours and offering the most extreme of antidotes to it.
Ich glaube, es geht nur, wenn wir systematisch vorgehen.
What happens when a family decides to completely withdraw from society? And in which mode of life lies the most radical mode of living? Haneke shoots in his clinical, detached style and does not differentiate between things. all action is mechanical, akin to Bresson. We treat action like an object, separate from any kind of context. Things are, and that's all they are. Whether people are paying for goods at a supermarket or flushing their money down the toilet, there ultimately isn't any difference between the two. Haneke's unapologetic use of the camera is one where sentimentality is eschewed for harsh objective truths. Like in Lee Chang-dong's Peppermint Candy, grief and trauma are intertwined with postmodern life in complex ways, reflecting a cultural and philosophical shift away from traditional modes of living and a step towards a fragmented and often disenchanted perspective. In Dead Man's Letters by Konstantin Lopushansky, a former scientist writes letters to his missing son, reflecting on the collapse of civilization and the futility of human endeavours. Set in a post-apocalyptic dystopia, the film's bleak monochromatic imagery and somber tone emphasise the nihilistic vision when all hope has been extinguished. It talks about the destructive power of human ambition and the ultimate emptiness of technological progress. It uses artifice to build what the Russians call ostranenie, or defamiliarization, presenting to us common things in an unfamiliar or strange way to achieve a sort of enlightenment, to make us digest the essence of the image. In Requiem for a Dream, Darren Aronofsky also uses a form of ostranenie as a way of exploring the hollow path of hedonistic pursuits. The film follows 4 characters, whose lives spiral out of control as they chase their dreams, only to be consumed by their addictions. Its relentless depiction of suffering reflects a worldview where the quest for meaning and fulfillment leads to inevitable destruction under late-stage capitalism. This is a bleak depiction of the fragility of human aspirations and the darkness that lies beneath the surface of even the individual. And yet, within many of these innate sinful aspirations that we may have, sometimes the best diagnosis for them is not to dwell in moroseness, but through satire. American Psycho does this through exploring the emptiness of consumer culture and the dehumanizing effects of hypercapitalism. The film's protagonist, Patrick Bateman, is a wealthy investment banker who leads a double life of violence. Bateman's obsession with status and appearance masks a profound sense of emptiness and disconnection from reality. The film portrays violence and extreme materialism as intertwined expressions of nihilism, highlighting the dark undercurrents of modern society, where identity and humanity are reduced to commodities.
He said, when I see a pretty girl walking down the street, I think 2 things. One part of me wants to take her out and talk to her, be real nice and sweet and treat her right.
And what the other part of him think?
What her head would look like on a stick.
It dives deep into the hollow core of a society obsessed with status. Bateman epitomizes the paradox of success in this world. Outwardly, he's impeccably groomed and financially affluent, yet inwardly, he's tormented and spiritually bankrupt. His meticulous grooming rituals and obsession with designer labels camouflage a profound sense of existential dread. He's not merely a deranged killer, but a symptom of a broader societal malaise. A malaise that underscores the darker currents beneath the glossy surface of modernity. Bateman's brutal acts of violence are not just expressions of his psychosis, but reflections of a society where human life and morality have been devalued and replaced by the relentless pursuit of profit and pleasure. And similarly, in Lars von Trier's The House That Jack Built, we follow the most repugnant depiction of a human being one can envision, and yet his story is told from the perspective of someone completely rational, merely explaining their own logic.
I went to great lengths to fake normal empathy in order to hide amongst the masses. Smile.
Many of us feel at some point as though we don't belong, and yet when we revel in the comfort of isolation, we can often find ourselves sympathizing and even identifying with a serial killer. In the same vein as Fight Club, the film holds up a mirror to society, daring us to examine our complicity in the commodification of the human experience and the erosion of empathy in an increasingly materialistic world. At the heart of our main character's delusion is a profound existential abyss, a dark void where meaning should have resided instead.
Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need.
Another round shows where once we achieve the materialistic barometers of success of wealthy and intellectual, we must find new goals to achieve. We abandon our instinct and through our own hubris believe that we can manufacture through our own warped logic new ways of living. Here, it's in the idea of a constant and perfect level of inebriation. It's through the avoidance of reality that our characters believe they may transcend it to a more perfect version of reality. It dialogues with Network. The film portrays a world where the media is sensationalist and corporate greed dictates human values, rendering personal connections secondary to profits and ratings. It portrays progress not as a linear path towards enlightenment, but as a destructive force that amplifies the existential void, leaving the characters disconnected in a sort of hyperpsychosis. Paddy Chayefsky's script presents an eerily prescient vision of a world no longer governed by nations, ideologies, or humanistic values, but by the impersonal and absolute force of the dollar.
One vast and immane, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars.
This prophetic monologue reveals a new world order where the market is the ultimate deity, and financial flows dictate the rhythms of human life far more profoundly than political processes or communal values ever could. Progress, once linked to cultural refinement or moral development, is redefined as the relentless maximization of shareholder value. Through this lens, Network anticipates the modern era's post-political landscape, where multinational corporations transcend borders and human identity is atomized into market segments. In late-stage capitalism, we are no longer citizens, but a customer base. Thus, Network doesn't merely criticize capitalism, it indicts a total metaphysical collapse. Corporations, in their pursuit of profit, become the new priesthood, the architects of human destiny and morality. In such a system, nihilism is not an aberration, but an inevitable outcome. Meaning, morality, and purpose are subordinated to market efficiency, and the human soul is left in a barren, commodified wasteland where all things, even rebellion, are bought and sold. In the pursuit of glittering facades and fleeting triumphs, a profound emptiness echoes through the hollow corridors of post-modernity. Amid the clamour of excess and the frantic chase for status, meaning is not obscured but obliterated, leaving a dissonant symphony of disconnection. The Coen brothers' No Country for Old Men is a modern-era response to the Western genre, stripping away the romanticism, choosing instead to dwell in the cold indifference of an ever-changing world. The film's enigmatic antagonist embodies the randomness and brutality of fate. It suggests that human life is governed by chance and violence, with no underlying moral order or free will. The aging sheriff's realization that he can no longer understand or combat the evil he faces mirrors the nihilistic despair of a world where the old certainties have crumbled. As we navigate this landscape, we find ourselves at the intersection of a distorted past and a fleeting sense of present.
Call it.
The coin don't have no say. It's just you.
I got here the same way the coin did.
Where the quest for advancement often masks a deeper existential vacuum. The allure of progress, once a beacon of hope, now casts long shadows over our understanding of history and self, revealing the true cost of the loss of identity and purpose, now adrift in a sea of nothingness. The aim to understand stands as the catalyst for our meandering sense of purpose. Take a film like My Winnipeg, for example, a documentary whose truth only lies in the abstracted perspective of an individual. Meaning thus becomes something intangible, something that outside of experience barely even exists. When I think of a film like Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai, I see a story of a hitman living by the ancient code of the samurai in a modern, decaying, urban environment. And in these juxtapositions of obeying an order in a world that no longer values such ideals, a man who lives his truth must intrinsically live an absurdist lifestyle. In opposition to the seeming order, everything looks chaotic. Just like in Joker, set against the backdrop of a decaying Gotham City, the film highlights societal indifference towards the marginalised. Arthur's transformation into the Joker is his rejection of the civilization that's already rejected him. It suggests that in this allegorical Gotham, without compassion or justice, violence and madness are inevitable outcomes. The Joker embodies the despair of an individual who, finding no place in society, chooses to embrace the chaos and absurdity of existence itself. And much like in Osheo do Halo, meaning has been supplanted by simulations, and individuals are trapped in a never-ending cycle of destruction and repetition. It's a portrayal of a world where human relationships are transactional and devoid of genuine connection. It's an examination of loneliness amidst the strange definitions of normalcy.
O preço para poder ver a bunda é comer o lixo daquela lanchonete. A comida sempre cai mal, sendo assim, o ralo fede. Ou seja, a bunda faz o ralo feder.
In Terry Gilliam's Brazil, that mechanical absurdity of existence reaches fever pitch. The film presents a suffocating labyrinth of bureaucracy and surveillance, a dystopia where dreams are the only refuge from a reality so dehumanized that individuality itself becomes a dangerous anomaly. And similarly, in They Live, John Carpenter strips the veneer from society's smiling facade, revealing a monstrous machinery of consumerism and conformity beneath. Cinema is similar to a spectator sport. There's no logical reason as to why we're so drawn to it, but we are. And in this, it develops codes of communication that are resonant, even if they appear on the nose and exaggerated. The indictment that society is nothing like what it seems has remained a staple for science fiction, reaching its cinematic zenith in The Matrix. But ultimately, as audiences, we find them more science than fiction, because they speak of a hyper-reality that's far too real for most people. It may as well be that aliens are actually walking among us. Bong Joon-ho's Parasite offers no less a brutal indictment. Beneath its playful shifts in genre lies a cutting vision of class struggle as a Sisyphean farce. The Kim family's desperate ascent mirrors the capitalist dream, the social ladder not as a path to liberation, but a pit deeper than any poverty, where hope becomes a weapon turned against the hopeful. The film exposes the farcical cruelty of a system in which human dignity is expendable, and the illusion of mobility masks a brutal, static hierarchy. Much like in Tokyo Sonata, where Kiyoshi Kurosawa depicts the collapse of a family unit not through catastrophe, but through mundane, familiar decay. The slow erosion of dignity, the slow death of communication, the atomization of the self. This is a study in silent despair, a portrait of lives emptied out by the invisible forces of modernity, forces as ruthless as any war or disaster, yet infinitely more insidious. As Guénon observed, modernity is marked by a descent into quantity, an age where quality, meaning, and transcendence are supplanted by the mechanical, the measurable, and the profane. The sacred order collapses, and in its place rises a labyrinth of surfaces, systems, and simulations. In such a world, disconnection is not an aberration, but the norm. The self becomes a fragment drifting through abstraction. In Anomalisa, Charlie Kaufman distills this existential void into an intimate, suffocating whisper.
Sorry, I grabbed your hand.
It's okay.
It's a reflex. I'm usually sitting next to my wife.
The protagonist wanders through a world where every voice sounds the same, every face blurs into another. This mechanical repetition, this deadening sameness, reveals a world flattened by routine and alienation, where the spark of human connection is an anomaly. perhaps even a fleeting glitch in a system designed for endless monotony. Again, through Kurosawa's lens, Pulse delves into the intersection of technology and isolation with a haunting portrayal of a world where digital communication becomes a conduit for despair. The film depicts a reality where the boundaries between the physical and the digital blur, leading to a pervasive sense of loneliness. As ghosts invade the internet, they amplify the character's sense of disconnection as the promise of brave new technologies are the very things driving us apart. Kei Oyama's The Thaw, where the fragmented and abstract narrative explores themes of memory and trauma through a disjointed visual style. The film presents the mind as a landscape of unresolved conflicts and suppressed emotions, a terrain of perpetual decay and dissolution. The same one explored in Spider, where David Cronenberg examines the fragility of identity and memory through the psychological labyrinth of its protagonist. The abstract imagery and disjointed storytelling emphasize the protagonist's psychological disintegration, portraying the mind as an inescapable abyss of unresolved past traumas. This vision of memory and confusion highlights the futility of seeking coherence or redemption in a fractured and chaotic inner world. In Bela Tarr's Werkmeister Harmonies, what's painted is a bleak portrait of a town descending into chaos and disorder. Using long, unbroken takes and minimalist storytelling, Bela Tarr creates an atmosphere of existential inevitability. The film's slow, deliberate pacing and bold visuals evoke a sense of encroaching doom, as the arrival of a mysterious circus brings with it a wave of social disintegration. The film's depiction of societal fragility and corruption reflects a view of human endeavours as ultimately undermined by forces of entropy and decay. It embodies the very essence of nihilism in art. It compels us to confront the void within and around us, urging us to find meaning not in simple answers, but in the questions themselves.
És ebbe a félelmetes és felfoghatatlan alkonyatban még a madarak is megzavarodnak és a fészkükre szállnak riadtan. És akkor néma csend.
As we navigate the abyss beyond, we realize that perhaps in embracing nothingness, we may discover a profound truth about the human experience, a truth that transcends the illusions of certainty and embraces the raw essence of our fleeting existence. Some may see it as a martyrdom, some noble sacrifice, with the quiet recognition that all answers are merely actions to prevent the exposure of the nothingness that lies in our reach. And yet by grabbing it, we may find certainty, that the quest for reason can finally come to an end. In this quiet dance, where shadows of meaning play across a cosmic void, we glimpse at our fragile significance, the world's grand tapestry, woven with threads of chance and fate, reveal a canvas both stark and beautiful, and in its silent expanse, we find our place, a fleeting spark in the vast, indifferent night. And there, amid the boundless dark, we craft our whispers of purpose, even if the universe remains unmoved by our dreams.